Welcome to Wokepedia Radio. Wokepedia Radio is sponsored by Equipping the Persecuted. Galatians 6:10 says, "Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers." Equipping the Persecuted fully embodies this verse as they aid some of the most precious of the household of faith in Nigeria. They give physical aid, spiritual training. They set up alarm towers to alert of dangerous invasions. They build schools, orphanages in Nigeria. If there is a need for persecuted Christians in Nigeria, Equipping the Persecuted meets that need. And you can partner with this worthwhile mission and find out more at equippingthepersecuted.org. I am your host, Pastor Sam Jones, and in today's episode of Wokepedia Radio, we have a special guest. In fact, we've got one of the main figures in Enemies Within the Church, that documentary that, of course, is really what helped produce Wokepedia. But before we introduce our guest, I want to go and introduce our team. Of course, joined with me, like always, we've got Mr. Wit himself, Kyle. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited for this interview. This is definitely an interview that, I'd say we should have done before, but this is probably pretty timely. It's been a year since Enemies Within the Church came out, so we've got a lot to talk about and a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, absolutely. I am excited about this interview, and you're right. It just really, God worked this out so that it's hitting at just the right time. Now, of course, we don't get all of him, but we do get at least a little bit of a sample. Pastor Micah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Pastor Sam. It's great to be here. Just made it back to some family's house with my wife, and have done a lot of driving today. But I've been looking forward to this interview as well, and I'm just grateful to God that He's given us a full year after Enemies Within the Church came out to see the impact of it, and I praise God for the work that's been done there, and for him getting Trevor to join us today.
Absolutely. And as you said there, we've got Trevor Loudon himself with us, an author, a speaker, a filmmaker, and of course, a famous political commentator and a lecturer, Mr. Trevor Loudon. Trevor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks, guys. Good to see Kyle and Micah and Sam. It's good to see the Iowa contingent is working strongly together.
Yeah, and I mean, this is really where everything happens. Whether it's politically or whether it's spiritually, it all really happens in Iowa. And so we got to get some of these other guys to move to Iowa. You know, I know that you are going to be suffering for Jesus down there in the deep South, Trevor. With all that heat.
A bone chilling 85 here today.
Oh man, that's just rough. You know, we had a warm one at 50 degrees today, so it was.
That's not bad at all. It's tolerable.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Well, they breed them tough up there. They get very soft down here.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. Now, for those of you who are listening in the Deep South, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your neighbor. So that's just important for you to understand. But Trevor, what have you been doing since you helped produce and make that tremendous and perhaps one of the most powerful and most impactful documentaries in the last decade, Enemies Within the Church? What have you been doing since then? You've probably just been sitting around doing nothing, right?
Just cruising along. Look, I have been touring pretty extensively, and see, when I tour, I take my books with me, and I take Enemies Within the Church, and I have big stocks, and I sell them at events. And some of these events are church events. Some of these are just, Tea Party or Republican Party. But wherever I go, people have heard of it. They want to know about it. People stand up at meetings and say, "This is excellent. You've got to watch this. This is profound." Profound is the word that I hear more than any other. It has really shaken people up. People buy, a dozen at a time. So I'm going to take one to my pastor. I'm taking one to my Bible group. I'm going to take one to my cousin. My pastor's just got to see this. It's really, really impacting people. I'm very gratified by it because, I'm seeing this in grassroots groups that some of them have no connection to any church. Some of them are church groups, but everywhere I'm seeing the same thing. This is profound. This is just shocking. I had no idea. But it's also encouraging people, because people, when they watch the movie, they usually are pretty shocked. And sometimes there's some depressing stuff in there. There's some uplifting stuff in there, but it's hard. It's really truthful. And well, I think what I've learned too from, I think there's a spiritual power in facing truth, because none of us want to face unpleasant truths. Mm-hmm. But that's a test of faith, isn't it? If you can face unpleasant truth, that shows that your faith and courage are there. You have enough faith to know that you can get through this, that you can get help to get through this. So that's what I'm finding. People are raving about the movie almost universally. And the only complaints I ever get, some people get a little bit tied up in the doctrinal weeds, that, I didn't quite like that doctrine there or whatever. Well, I think they've missed the point if they quibble about that kind of thing. But yeah, so for last year, I've been traveling around the country, probably done 100 speeches, I suppose, in that time, from California to North Carolina, and it's been brilliant. It's been great. It's really proud to be associated with the movie and get lots and lots of positive feedback. So I'm there I'm there in the grassroots, dealing with people every day who've either seen it or have heard about it and want to see it. So it's pretty fantastic, actually.
That is awesome. That is great to hear. And of course, if you haven't seen that movie yet and you're going, wait, I need to see this. I didn't realize Trevor Loudon was part of it. He was a producer, and I have just already fallen in love with that great Southern accent that he has.
That's
and
right.
I need to hear more. You need to go to enemieswithinthechurch.com. Once again, it's enemieswithinthechurch.com. And you can go ahead and you can order 100 DVDs if you want. You could even order 100 Blu-rays, or you could stream it right there 100 times. It's up to you. You can do whatever you want. So go to enemieswithinthechurch.com. But Trevor, you mentioned your books. Now, what are some of these books that you're taking around? I mean, you're not just a TV host or a show host and a movie producer. You're also a writer and an author. What are some of these books that you're taking around on these tours?
Well, see, the reason I was brought into Enemies Within the Church was really for my knowledge of socialism and communism and radicalism. I've been studying that for years, their impact on our mainstream politics, and now clearly the impact on the churches. And I've actually been more horrified at their impact on the churches than I had in the government, just about. But I've written several books. My latest two, which I'm particularly proud of, are Security Risk Senators, Part 1 and Part 2. And the books, 400 pages each, with 50 pages of reference in each one. And I profile 15 serving U.S. senators in each one, with their ties to the Chinese, the Cubans, the Iranians, American communists, American Islamists. Look, people would be absolutely shocked to understand that there are no background checks or security clearances in Congress or the Senate at all.
Wow.
And our enemies are putting people in government to basically bring us down. And you look at it from say you are Xi Jinping, the leader of China, and you want to take America down. Would you want to risk billions of dollars on a trade war that might blow up in your face? Would you want to risk trillions of dollars on a shooting war before you are ready? Or would you rather spend a couple of $1 billion buying up American senators and getting them to do what you want? What would be the better investment, the less risky investment? Trump's intelligence advisor Ratcliffe said 2 years ago, said the Chinese had compromised so many American senators and congressmen, they can now determine which legislation goes through your Congress and which doesn't. Wow. So people need to know. And because, these senators have every Christian should want to know who their senators are. They're just pushing this Marriage Equality Act, which is going to have massive impact on the American church. It's
Yeah.
paving the way, I think, down the road for churches who don't accept gay marriage to lose their tax-free status, to be labelled as hate organisations. So
Yeah.
that's the book, Security Risk Senators, my latest iteration. But I have other projects on the go as well. But that's what I've got out there right now, and it's, if people live in Georgia, they want to know the communist background of Raphael Warnock. I've got 50 pages that will tell you all about it.
Yeah. Now, so this sounds like a book that is very relevant right now, and people need to go and to read that. And of course, you can find that at either at Amazon if you want to give Jeff Bezos a good Christmas, or if you want to make it so that Trevor has a good Christmas. He might be having a good Christmas either way, no matter where you buy it from. But if you want to have a especially good Christmas, you can go to trevorloudon.com. Once again, that's trevorloudon.com, and you can find the books there. And if you get them there, he said that he would even sign them. Is that right, Trevor?
That's right. You can sign them either to yourself, or you can nominate, sign it to your cousin or your daughter or a friend. It's a perfect gift for a conservative, because there's information in these books you will never get anywhere else. You won't get it on Fox News. You won't get it from any website. I spend 15 hours a day researching these people. You don't come to a foreign country and tell them that many of their leaders are traitors and working for their enemies unless you got some evidence to back it up. And I've got the evidence.
Now, you could do that. Another great idea would be is that you could get it and send it to your senator, because it sounds like your senator needs to know this.
Exactly, yeah. Well, these people need to understand who they're working with. We've got a few good senators, but they don't understand that the guy serving next to them is compromised by the Chinese, or is doing deals with the Iranians, or is sleeping with a Chinese agent, like Eric Swalwell was caught doing. This is going on all the time. And I profile 30 current senators. That's nearly a third of the House. And that's people will be shocked when they read this stuff.
Now, Trevor, when you say that, there's 30, and there's only 100 seats in the U.S. Senate. And so when you're looking at that, I'm almost afraid to ask this question because, it's one of those uncomfortable truths. And I'm not sure that there's a comfortable answer here. Are all 30 of these senators that you profile, are they all Democrats, or are there some Republicans? And I'll be honest, I'm afraid of the answer either way you go with this.
Well, look, they are all Democrats, because I deal with the communists, and the Democrats are working. But look, if I did the book again now, I would probably also include Mitch McConnell for his deep works, his deep relationship with communist China. Wow. And there's a few others. Look, this is how it works. The Chinese, they get the Democrats through ideology and money. They get the Republicans through money. And I'm more familiar with the ideological subversion, so that's what I tend to focus on. But yes, it's we've got several governors in this country, for instance, including the previous governor of Iowa, Terry Branstad, who is just deeply, deeply in bed with China. He was ambassador to China, but he brought a lot of Chinese influence into Iowa, and that's like bringing the mafia into your state. This is not just a country that wants to make money. This is a country that wants to control you, to sell drugs to your kids, to take over your education system, to buy up your politicians. You can deal with the mafia and you make some money, but there's always a hook, isn't there?
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're at the point now that but we just saw Biden go to a meeting with Xi Jinping, and Biden was wearing a Mao suit, right? He was kowtowing to the leader of China. The president of the United States was bowing to the leader of China, wearing a Mao suit at the time. Can you imagine Reagan doing that? Can you imagine President Trump doing that? But that's where we're at now. This country is being run out of China right now, effectively.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, that is so disheartening. And one of the questions that I think is good to ask, and it's kind of obvious, or at least it used to be obvious, but I think that it needs to be asked because people listening, they might not know. They might be a little bit younger. They might be used to hearing woke pastors and stuff like that. But is communism and socialism, um, do they contradict Christianity, Trevor? Or do these two things go together?
100%. 100%. They're not incompatible in any way at all. But you'll get a lot of woke pastors who'll say, well, Jesus was a socialist because he wanted to give alms to the poor and he encouraged charity. Well, there's a huge difference between Christian charity and forced redistribution of wealth.
Exactly.
A massive difference. But they conflate this. But see, so what is communism? We've got to understand. Communism is the ultimately, it's not really about the worker. It is about the rebellion against God. Now, we are given three institutions to govern us, three main institutions. We're given the church, we're given the family, and we're given civil government. All of them are godly institutions. Are all of them under threat right now? Is the family being undermined? Is the church in trouble? Is the government in chaos?
Yeah.
All of that is because the communists are trying to overturn each one. The ultimate game of communism, goal of communism is to dethrone God and enthrone Satan. Now, they're never going to do that, but think of the damage they can do trying if we let them. We're supposed to be restraining evil. So we got to stand against Satan. We got to stand against his main manifestation on earth today, which is communism. Communism is well, look at it. Are we supposed to envy others? Is there a commandment that sort of says that envy is not a good thing? Covet not thy neighbor's goods. Well, communism is completely built on envy and jealousy. You've got too much, I want some of it. I don't care if you earned it. I don't care if you worked hard. I got to have some. Now, you couldn't get more an envy-driven doctrine than that. So just on that level alone, it's completely incompatible with communism. But ultimately, it's not even atheistic. Marx was a Satanist. He invented a system to inflame men's passions, to ramp up jealousy, to increase division, to increase hatred, to overthrow the church, to overthrow the family, and to overthrow our civil government, to institute a whole new regime on earth where there are no families, where the civil government is completely controlled by a few people, where there is no church unless it is a Marxist church. Like in Germany when they had the Nazi churches, the German pastors put swastikas in their churches, to compromise with Hitler. And then we got World War II as a reward for that, which had to be sorted out by young American Christian boys from Iowa and Nebraska who left high school and put on uniforms and picked up guns and charged Nazi machine guns on the beaches of Normandy. Who do you think honored God more? The young Iowa boys who died on the beaches of Normandy, or the German Christians who didn't stand up for their faith and let Hitler get away with it? Who would you rather be on Judgment Day?
Absolutely. You'd rather be the ones who stood out and they stood strong. Well, Kyle and Micah, how are you guys doing today? I'm sure that after listening to just a little bit of that, you guys have some questions here for Trevor. And so go ahead and ask away.
Well, so Trevor, you mentioned this this act that's going through right now, and in fact, that was voted upon by the Senate, advanced in a bipartisan 62-37 vote. It's entitled the Respect for Marriage Act, and I think it might be more appropriately titled the Disrespect for Marriage Act. Can you elaborate a little bit on how this essentially is an example of the communists attempting to denigrate the institution of the family?
Well, see, this is all about the gay rights movement that we know about was started by a man called Harry Hay. He was a pioneer of the gay rights movement. He started the Mattachine Society. He was involved in ACT UP and other gay groups. He was also in the Communist Party. The gay radical movement is a communist movement, and its goal has never been to take away prejudice against homosexuals or to give equality. It's always been to use homosexuality as a wedge to drive big holes in the American family, to just create chaos in the family. And so the whole gay rights movement, you can look at the leaders all over the country, they're all Marxists. It's a revolutionary movement. And first they said, it's just about gay marriage. So people said, oh, well, okay. Then it's about adopting children. People said, well, it's okay. But it gets more and more. Now you cannot criticize it. Now you must accept it. Now you won't be able to hire. Say you have a homosexual man as a youth pastor. You won't be able to fire him.
Mm.
You just have to let him do what he wants to do. So this is the biggest way they're attacking the conservative churches in this country is through the gay movement. They're going to say the churches are hate mongers. They are hating these people, and therefore their freedom of speech can be curtailed under hate speech laws. They're going to say, well, why are these churches having tax-free status when they're prejudiced against certain people? Because homosexuals are not just equal with us; they have a superior status now. Mm-hmm. So this is all about bringing down traditional Christianity. This is a communist assault on the church because the church is God's thing, and the communists hate God. So what better way to destroy the church than to use homosexuality as a wedge to accuse the church of being hateful and anachronistic and not with the program? The churches are going to have to either do this. They're going to have to compromise their beliefs to survive, or they're going to have to fight back. Mm-hmm. Well, we know what happened in Hitler's time. The churches didn't fight back. They compromised. And what did that lead to? Well, the churches better start standing up real quick right now. You imagine you got a little church out in the cornfields of Minnesota, and you're a very conservative, Bible-believing church, and a gay couple turn up at your doorstep. And they say, look, we'd love to get married in your church. We think it's just a wonderful place. And you say, no, look, that doesn't accord with our beliefs. And then the next week you get hit with a $5 million civil rights lawsuit from the Department of Justice. That's what's coming if we don't stand up to this stuff. And churches should be out there marching. They should be just banging on their senators' doors. Don't vote for this stuff. Yeah. But I'm hardly hearing a peep. Hardly a peep.
Churches made more of a peep during 2020, marching with Black Lives Matter. It's shocking to say the least. But I have a question.
Black Lives Matter, a Chinese communist operation. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I have a question.
Well, that's why we did enemies within the church. Yeah, sure. Okay, Kyle.
And it kind of relates to, why enemies within the church. But I want to ask specifically to you, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you fighting against communism? Why are you fighting for the integrity of the church? Why are you doing these things? And specifically, because I think a lot of people, they go, oh, well, you're just being alarmist. You're just being alarmist. Why are you raising the alarm? What is the goal that you have in raising the alarm? What is the objective that you would like people to accomplish?
Yeah. Well, I've got kids, and I want my kids to live free and unmolested and to make their own choices. Amen. I want to stand. I know we're all going to be held to account one day. And when that comes, I want to be able to stand up straight. We are told we got to restrain evil. We've got to fight evil. If we don't as the famous saying goes, all that's necessary for evil to triumph is that good men do nothing.
Yep.
Evil's always there. We have to be constantly vigilant against it. So I get up in the morning and I think, I got these kids. I love this life. I think this is a fantastic country. Knowing what I know, can I really shut my mouth? Can I really stand back and say nothing? How do I sleep at night if I do that? How do I look myself in the eye? How do I look my kids in the eye? With America's free because your ancestors went away out into, charged German machine guns at the beaches of Normandy. They went out in the Pacific and fought the Japanese for years at a time. They fought the Revolutionary War, the greatest, against the world's greatest military machine. They risked everything and sacrificed their lives to give us freedom. And we are just turning it away. We are just rolling over because we don't want to miss a football game on a Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
Look at if we're not willing to fight for ourselves and our own beliefs, shouldn't we be at least fighting for our kids?
That is so powerful. Just, I mean, and that is so true. I stop and I think about my two sons that I have, Trevor, and I mean, that is
two now.
Yeah. We've adopted a second one.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And looking at little Thomas and little Henry and looking down there, I think, I don't want to disappoint them. And of course, like you said, on Judgment Day, I definitely don't want to disappoint God in going and looking at that. And this is why we should all be fighting. And I want to thank you, Trevor, for going and standing out and speaking out. It's not comfortable. I know that you've had many threats, I'm sure, on your life and have really ticked a lot of people off, but you've done it for the right reasons and holding up truth and exposing lies. And so I just want to thank you for that. And thank you for joining our show here, this broadcast today. And I want to encourage everyone to go to trevorloudon.com. Once again, that's trevorloudon.com. And let me spell that for you. It's TrevorLoudon.com. And you need to get his book, Security Risk Senators, and maybe another book or two that's there. I've got several of Trevor's books. They're all excellent that I've read. And you need to go and get this. You need to be informed. You need to get one for your neighbors so that they can be informed. You need to go and to really understand what is happening in our nation, understand that it is communism, that it is those who are enemies, not only enemies of the United States, but ultimately enemies of the cross, because as Trevor said, the ultimate goal of communism is to dethrone God and to enthrone Satan, to go and to put Satan on the throne. Marxism has its root in Satanism. So you need to go and you need to get these books. You need to go into become aware, but then you need to actually go out and do something. Stand up, as Trevor said, be marching out in the streets. Go talk to your political leaders, your representatives, and different people. You need to go and to be calling them to account, because you are going to have to give an account. Well, thank you so much for listening to our broadcast here today. And I want to encourage you to really go to equippingthepersecuted.com. Equipping the Persecuted is the one who sponsors us. They sponsor the show. And of course, they do an incredible work for Christ and building his kingdom right there in Nigeria, going and taking care of some of the most precious saints of Christ. And you need to go and find out all about this ministry. But also, if you want to continue to hear this broadcast, you need to support ministries like Equipping the Persecuted, because they're the ones who are willing to stick their neck out on the line and their pocketbook out on the line to go and to broadcast truth like this. Well, I'm your host, Sam Jones, and thank you for listening today to our show. And remember, you can contact us at contactwokepedia@gmail.com. Wokepedia is sponsored by Equipping the Persecuted. Keep standing for the truth.
And don't go woke.